Where your Levi zipper came from or where your iOS device was put together, they likely came from far away, and this is all due to efficient supply chains. First off, let's take an American Eagle shirt you might have got at your local mall. Where do you think it came from? China? It was actually likely made here in this factory in Vietnam, shipped through Singapore in a big container, and then trucked to your local mall. Next, have you ever wondered why all of your zippers say YKK on them? That's because it was likely manufactured by Yoshida Koyogo Kabushiki, headquartered in Japan, but your zipper was likely manufactured in this factory in the state of Georgia, USA, where their largest manufacturer is located. Are you still looking at your zipper? Lastly, your latest iOS device might have been assembled in this new factory of one of Apple's suppliers, located here just outside of Sao Paulo, Brazil.
So, what is supply chain? Supply chain is the process of getting a product from point A to point B. With how advanced technology has become, there are more ways than ever to transport your product. Our goal as supply chain managers is to get your product into your hands. Now, you might say, how do we do that? Well, it's easy. First, we negotiate with suppliers to purchase these raw materials. Second, we ship those materials as efficiently as possible through trucks, ships, and trains. And finally, we do everything we can to make sure your product gets to the store on time so you, as a consumer, can enjoy your product. Why is this so important to you? Well, without it, you wouldn't enjoy that car that you're able to drive, or even that phone that you enjoy using. Think about it. Everything you own is because of a company's supply chain. And without these supply chains, we would have nothing. So, how does supply chain compare to other areas of business? Accounting, well, it's the language of business with their income statements and balance sheets. Marketing, on the other hand, is the promotion of business, making sure our customers are aware of our product with customer surveys, sales, and things like advertisements. So, where does that leave supply chain? In supply chain management, we are the business. We source your product, we make your product, and we deliver your product so you, as a consumer, can enjoy your product.
So what careers are available in supply chain management? First, there are people who make deals and negotiate with suppliers to make sure you get things like raw materials to your business on time. You can strike deals, save your company lots of money, something that will make you very valuable in the marketplace. Also, you could work in quality control and assure that your company's product is the best on the market. This involves deep analysis and constantly evolving quality methods to make sure your product is consistently the best. You could be a process analyst and improve the processes in your factory. You will be responsible to make sure your products get out the door as efficiently as possible, like all these nice cars being pumped out of this factory. In logistics, a complex and exciting field, we focus on getting materials from one place to another. This field is growing quickly. For example, about 10% of the population of the state of Georgia works in the field of logistics. You could be a supply chain strategy analyst. You can consult your company on how they can save money by modifying their supply chain, come up with great ideas. Supply chain managers save their companies an average of $250,000 every year. So what companies recruit from BYU? Aramark, Boeing, Walmart, Brodeo Shaw, C.H. Robinson, Walt Disney, Intermountain Healthcare, PepsiCo, Schneider National, Union Pacific, among many others.
As you can tell, that was really a BYU video. But a lot of these companies come here too. And if you're interested in supply chain, it's just, they say they are the business. And in some ways, that's somewhat true because even like operations management is a large piece of business operations, supply chain is a very large piece of operations management, or at least stretches through a lot of it. So um, it's usually in about every company, and it can be there's jobs out there that you might not even understand might exist. For instance, like C.H. Robinson. Does anybody know what C.H. Robinson is? It's a trucking company, a transportation company with no trucks. So what they've done is developed relationship with actual trucking companies. So we call them a broker. So we would call C.H. Robinson and say, who can get this product here at the best rate? And they're just a middle person. And they've, just made a very successful business in trucking without any trucks. So all types of things in logistics and supply chain that you can do. Um, they're going to talk through this, what supply chain is and the activities and all that, and all the things that have to be included. So you got to be agile, sustainable, you got to have quality, you got to watch your costs, just so much to it. This looks at what the flow of physical goods usually looks like, raw materials to the manufacturer, to the warehouse, to the store, and all that, the customer, but usually the information flow is flowing between everybody, especially as we look at tier 1, 2, and 3 suppliers. So, tier 1 supplier supplies you directly, 2 might supply the tier 1, 3 might supply the tier 2. So, all these different functions within these companies, you'll need to understand some. You'll need to understand what they're doing and who they are. Logistics has two parts. One part is traffic management, so it's arranging the method for shipping, both inbound and outbound. And then you've got your distribution, which is taking your material and how you're going to get it from the manufacturer to the customer. This is a good look at how a tier 1, 2, and 3 supplier works, and they can go even further down. So this is I guess, milk processing or dairy products. So they've got this facility here that provides to the retail stores, who of course provides to the customers. So their tier 1 suppliers might be the dairy farm. It might be the cardboard container manufacturer. So they're getting their cardboard containers from somebody. Their label company, in plastic containers. Their tier 2 would be the paper mill that's supplying cardboard to the people who are making their cartons. And then the tier 3 is this lumber yard that's supplying wood to the cardboard company that's making the boxes. So typically what would happen, get wood to the cardboard manufacturer, they're going to make just cardboard. They get to the cardboard container manufacturer, they're going to make the specific size, put the print and stuff on it that they need, and then it's going to get to the processor. So why do you think it's so important that at least are familiar with the different people in each of these tiers? Probably overall more important to know the tier 1 versus the tier 2 to the tier 3, but still important to understand and know. Why do you think that's important?
If you have a problem in the supply chain, you can go directly to the source.
You can go to this. Yep. Sometimes you can go directly to the source and kind of we say, give them a kick in the seat of their pants a little bit. If you needed something, you need to understand like this one, because what if it's just some, random fly by night lumber company? They just, it's a group of people who cut logs when they're slow in another time of the year in their other job and may not be super dependable, but you're a big time dairy producer. You don't want this company to get caught in a situation because of this company. So you want to be able to understand and know that you've got something that's sustainable. What else? Anything else that you can think of? Why you would want to know, particularly maybe some of these down here? More from a social aspect too, because let me tell you, the media loves when something goes wrong down here at some company, especially if it's a big company like Walmart or Amazon. You know that they're getting the product supplied. They love to bash them. They love to go straight to them. So you need to know what your organizations are doing for social reasons too. We hear a lot about underage workers or unsafe working conditions and things like that, and that's not something that we should just not worry about. But you need to manage it on some levels and the communication around it. A lot of times you may have bad working conditions or younger people working in an underdeveloped country, but it may be the best job in town. So, and the media usually doesn't tell you about those parts of it. So there's a balance there, but you want to make sure you maintain this social responsibility um, aspect of it. For a service organization, here's kind of how it looks. And it's an external supplier, and then you have your internal operations, and then your external distributors. So, from the perspective of a travel agency, your external suppliers are pretty general: airlines, cruise lines, trains, whatever it might be. Your internal operations are all the things you're going to do inside your travel agency to arrange it for the customer. So sourcing, pricing, payment, all those things. Your external distributors are more specific. So it might be Delta Airlines or Celebrity Cruises or something a little more specific. So that's kind of how it flows with the service side of it. Bullwhip effect. So anybody know what the bullwhip effect is, just offhand? Can I explain it? It's basically, something happens. There's some sort of disruption. And it usually starts with the customer, and somebody starts reacting, then other people react a certain way, and then it just makes the problem worse all the way down the chain. Because what'll happen is the customer will do something, then it'll go to the retailer and they do something drastic, and then the distributor does something drastic and just keeps going. So the bullwhip effect causes disruptions. It seems like it shouldn't, but we still do it all the time. It could be demand forecasting's wrong, so somebody runs out of something, and rationing and shorting, gaming. So, for instance, when COVID started coming in, everybody went to get toilet paper. That was the first thing. It couldn't find it anywhere, so now everything's short. Results in excess inventory investment and not having the things that you need. Companies could lose revenue. An example of bullwhip effect, for me personally, I just started working the baseball program and COVID hit, and then people were anxious to get out there. It was a couple months later, so we had to do it right. We had to have hand washing stations and take temperatures and do all these things. But I couldn't find hand sanitizer. It was like impossible. It sold out everywhere, or they would only sell it to health providers. So when I finally did find it, I bought a bunch of it. I had a bunch of it. And you know what? We still have a bunch of it, and that's kind of the whole idea behind the bullwhip effect. I reacted like, oh man, I better get all I can. And then it caused more problems down the line. Well, a year later, all these places, like Harding gave me a pallet of hand sanitizer because they actually got it. I think it was a government grant or something that they got it for free. But they're like, we don't need it now. And what do we do? I was like, I guess I'll take it. I mean, I don't need it, but give it out for free or something. So yeah, now you have all these excess inventories and excess expenses. And when people really needed it, they couldn't get it, and you end up with extra later. So it's just a big problem. This video does a good job, but it's kind of low quality, but they do a good job explaining and walking through what really happens in the bullwhip effect.
What is the bullwhip effect? The bullwhip effect is the unexpected distortion of the supply chain caused by repetitive variation in demand. The unplanned demand from retailer oscillates back to the distributor, and finally to the supplier, magnifying through each level of the supply chain. Why is it called the bullwhip effect? As the oscillating demand magnifies upstream in the supply chain, it is reminiscent of a cracking whip.
Why is this a problem? Well, this can have a negative effect on business performance, such as inventory disruptions, quality control problems, diminished customer service, and increased costs of material and manpower. Welcome to Procter & Gamble, manufacturer of Pampers disposable diapers. Let us introduce you to their supply and demand chain, which is similar to most supply and demand chains. This is little Martin, our consumer at the customer end. He may look cute and adorable now, but wait until you see the havoc he is about to cause. Or maybe we should say the havoc his mommy is about to cause. This is your typical retail store Allmart, one of many, which stocks and sells Pampers diapers. Allmart is having a sale this weekend and running Pampers as a loss leader, 50% off. All the mummies are very excited, so they are planning to stock up. Allmart orders in bulk from its distributor, BS Distributors, taking all its safety stock in the process. BS has no stock left to supply Allmart or any other retailer for that matter. Not knowing what is going on and where all these babies suddenly came from, BS places a big order to replenish its inventory with the factory. Procter & Gamble's factory gets the big order and starts manufacturing in overdrive, but first it has to negotiate with the union regarding overtime pay and get a lot more supplies from its suppliers to get the production on track for the new influx of babies. The supplier is not prepared for this sudden large order and has insufficient raw material required to make the diapers. Because it does not have enough stock, the supplier causes additional delays in production.
Meanwhile, Allmart places another order that is bigger than normal because it had great sales this weekend and no stock left. But the distributor is panicking because they have no stock left and the factory has not sent nearly enough to cover the orders. So the distributor places yet another big order. And so it continues. Because no one is getting their orders, they carry on placing bigger orders still, compounding the problem. The factory is taking strain. Suppliers are under pressure. Distributors are panicking. Retailers are upset because they didn't get their orders. Mommies that could not get to the Allmart sale are upset because they have to buy Snuggies. And ones that made it don't know what the fuss is all about. By the time the factory starts delivering, everybody downstream starts cancelling their orders, and the factory is left with an oversupply of stock. So why does this matter? Well, because of the stock out, baby has to wear Snuggies, which give him a rash. Allmart lost sales and consumers are unhappy because they did not have stock. BS Distributors' retail customers are unhappy because it took so long to supply them with stock. And they in turn are in the dog box with the factory for cancelling half their orders. The factory incurred additional costs to get the orders out faster. And the suppliers incurred additional costs in sourcing raw material for the factory, and now their orders have been cut in half.
So now that you know what the bullwhip effect is, you probably want to know what causes it and how we can prevent it. There are numerous factors, often in combination, which contribute to the bullwhip effect. We will consider 4 of the major causes. Price fluctuations and sales promotions. Sales promotions and price discounts result in customers buying in large quantities and stocking up. As a result, the buying pattern does not reflect the actual consumption. Order batching. Companies place orders in batches, often to avoid the cost of processing orders more frequently or to avoid the high transportation costs for less than truckload orders. Shortage gaming. If product demand exceeds supply, manufacturers ration products, while customers exaggerate their orders to counteract the rationing. Eventually, orders will disappear and cancellations will pour in, making it impossible for the manufacturer to determine the real demand for its product. Demand forecasting accuracies. As each entity along the chain places an order, it replenishes stock and includes some safety stock. With long lead times, there may be weeks of safety stock, which make the fluctuation in demand more significant.
Countermeasures to fluctuating prices. Fluctuating prices can be replaced with everyday low prices. Countermeasures to order batching. More frequent ordering results in smaller orders and smaller variants. Countermeasures to shortage gaming. Proportional rationing schemes are countered by allocating units based on past sales. Ignorance of supply chain conditions can be addressed by sharing capacity and supply information across the entire supply chain. Countermeasures to demand forecast inaccuracies. Lack of demand visibility can be addressed by providing access to point-of-sale data. Single control of replenishment or vendor management inventory can overcome exaggerated demand forecasts. Long lead times should be reduced as much as possible.
With all this said, it's actually all about
Communication.
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 A little obnoxious, but it's true. A lot of it's just about communicating. I don't know that we'll ever get completely past, some of these things where they might have a lost leader or something like that. But order batching could be something that we're kind of moving to. And the whole idea is really behind the retailer side of it. In distribution, you usually try to batch orders. It's more efficient. But the idea with that at the retailers, you have a point of sale and you order at the smallest reorder point that you can. So, a lot of the distributors are having to ship individual units or in smaller packaging. We had cases that were usually 36 or 72 each is in it. And then we had sub packs that might have been down to 2 to 6. And a lot of customers would order either the 2 or the 6. We actually had some that were ones, so people could order them in that small of a quantity. They had to pay extra for them, but what they figured out was that if they ordered like that in the long run, they saved money. So all those things can help stabilizing pricing, all that stuff. And some of it's just a part of the retail business. I don't know that it will go away. Information technology. So, this talks about, EDI and ways to transmit information, being able to communicate back and forth, and RFID and barcodes and all these different things, and the stability of the internet. But I think another big part of it that we're going to see is the way we use AI, being able to project what we need. It's getting better and better and better all the time. So we're going to see that explode even more than it has. E-commerce and e-business, even in the business-to-business side of it, has grown significantly. I'll jump into that in a little bit. We'll move on for now. This just looks at some of the timelines and what we've seen over the decades. So as technology got better, we got to where we could automate our entries and send data back and forth, and then net marketplaces, which are like the auto manufacturers industry. They have I think it's called Covisint, something like that, that all of them can go to and see all these different businesses that make auto parts to help them be able to buy that. So those are some of the bigger changes. Big impact on it is administrative costs. And again, I'll jump into that a little bit later. But you're able to do your business to business. So you're buying supplies and raw materials and components, whatever you might need, over the internet instead of having to contact an individual salesperson and work it out. E-commerce, as far as retail, can see it's gone from 2017 about 10% all the way up to 22 in 2023. If you had to put a number, how much do you buy online versus how much you buy in a store? You're not going to be tested on it. Just, give me an estimate.
75% online.
75 online, okay. Anybody the other way? Probably the opposite. It's funny because I really like to buy stuff online. I feel like it saves my time. My wife does not. She likes to go to the store and see it, pick it out, except now for groceries. She's like, okay, I'm getting groceries delivered from now on because it's just way too easy. But, some spectrum there. But in the long run, we're seeing just more and more done online, especially since that line between what's actually an online sale and what's an e-commerce or in-person sale is kind of blurred a little bit. Now you can, at Walmart, you can have same day delivery on pretty much anything that's in the store if you get it in early enough, sometimes within a couple hours. So, it's kind of like, I can get it right away. So there's some lines blurring there, and you're going to see more and more of that. I don't remember when this chart was from. It came from the textbook. Uh, but I've got this other one in set here that's a little more up to date. So Amazon just really took off with the online sales. They were the first company. They were the ones who first to market with this idea and really grasped onto it. People grasped onto it, and they exploded and took a large percentage. But we're seeing that other companies are doing a little bit better, especially Walmart. They've been able to do well using their stores essentially as distribution centers. They figured out ways to work instead of, when Amazon came out with 2-day delivery, a lot of times people were like, okay, I can wait 2 days. It got to be something they want to do, and they liked that convenience. Well, then Walmart has now figured out how to do it even faster than Amazon using their stores. So they've started to compete with them. But they're both a little bit different. Amazon tends to look more at technology and being on the cutting edge of that, more services like web services, Prime Video. I don't think that we're going to see Walmart Plus Video. I mean, who knows, they might, but it just doesn't seem to be really what Walmart is. So they're able to, they're starting to step on each other's turf a little bit, being able to work to try to differentiate, but still provide the same goods. This is actually a video of Walmart versus Amazon. It just talks about some of the differences. I'm going to skip past it for the sake of time. And they'll look at some of these things like in the Amazon stores, they've got these carts with, computers or iPads or something on them that they're able to do all this work with. And just go through and you're done. You don't have to stop at a register, anything like that. Yeah.
Most of that was out of this fake though, right?
Most of what?
Most of the Amazon stores were out of this fake because they actually had places in India that were watching it too. Everything is like actually because it couldn't be trusted enough.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's when most of them shut down.
Okay. Interesting. What I did notice was all these carts with, like the processors and everything on them. You know what happens with the carts when I go out somewhere, like the wind takes them and blows them away? I thought, man, that's an expensive shopping cart. But the whole idea in general, Amazon's going to be a little more on the leading edge of technology. It's almost like Walmart kind of sits back and watches them. It's like, okay, how can we take that or do it a little different to get our advantage? But if you want to watch this, it's not like there's anything on the test that's on it, but it's interesting to look at. Different models, business to consumer, that's just your traditional selling to individual consumers. Advertising revenue model, this is how companies are making money. So if you're in an advertising revenue model, what can you think of an example of that? Something that's primary income is based off of advertising. Anybody got any apps, games that they like to play? I got hooked on Candy Crush for a while, but I got so sick of the ads and I wasn't going to pay for it. I was like, forget it. This is stupid now. So that's their model. They go in, they might get some people that subscribe to it, I guess, but most people, they're just going to play the free version and take the apps. A lot of apps do that. Subscription revenue model. They think of something? Spotify, yeah. Netflix, Apple Music, Amazon Music. Well, yeah, it's still a subscription model. Transaction fee. So like if you sell something on eBay, they're going to charge, you're going to have to pay a certain fee just for selling something. Sales revenue. So it could be a service. I think about Amazon Web Services, they're doing more of a service than, trying to sell that product. And then affiliate revenue model. You don't see much of that as much anymore. It's almost like you get paid for helping generate business. we used to call it, or they used to call it a bird dog. If you sent someone to buy a car from somebody, like that salesman, and they knew that you did it, the term or the phrase was, "Well, I'll send you a bird dog." Really, what it meant was like they'd send you like $100 or something. But that was the whole phrase. But there used to also be independent salespeople, so you could like go out and find a product you really like and not necessarily work for the company, but agree to a commission, and you could go sell it. I knew of people who did really well at that, but you don't really see that much anymore. I think they're trying to keep more of that, a little more control. Uh, this kind of segues right into it. Intranets versus extranets. Security is so important. So now we've got intranets where you can control the traffic a little bit better. Your extranets might link out to your different suppliers where you have a little bit more control, but it does reach out a little bit. So all of those, we're going to jump past that. Let's see, globalization, especially with technology, globalization has become a much bigger push because it's made it easier to get stuff overseas when it's cheaper and get whatever services you might need from them. Let's see, velocity. On green supply chain, I always think this is interesting. So everybody wants the companies that they buy for to be environmentally friendly. This is looking at potato chips. So the farmer has 44% of the carbon footprint. The processing has 30% of the carbon footprint. Packaging 15, transportation 9, and disposal 2. When you hear about green initiatives and things people are doing, what do you usually hear about? What are some of the things that people are doing or pushing for? Paper straws to save turtles. Yes. So that kind of goes to recycling. Maybe that could be packaging, recycling things. Maybe this part of it too, disposal at the customer. Recycle it. Don't just throw it away. Or you hear about our our industry or our sector is going to increase fuel mileage by 10%. I think it's funny because these are the ones you hear the most talk about, but really the most carbon footprint is in these spots. Not saying that we need to go beat up on a farmer, but what do we need to really focus on? Some companies are really good at looking at the process side of it. L'Oreal was. They really tried to reduce their water usage and things like that. So they worked really hard in this section. But it's just another one of those things that what you see the most usually is something about fuel mileage and recycling. But if you really want to affect the carbon footprint, it's probably inside your operation a little more. Let's see, purchasing. Purchasing has really kind of changed. In fact, now they like to call it procurement, and it's just a fancy word, really. Not much has changed too much, but we can look at this. So traditional purchasing, we had to do a request, we had to find out price, availability, had to get a purchase order, all these different things. And with e-purchasing, it's like you can just do it online and request it. This is kind of the traditional process. We hated buying things before we were able to do some business to business supplier buying. So, you'd have to fill out a request and then you'd have to get it approved. And then you'd have to ask the buyer, what could you get? And then you had to call them. Then you had to get a PO number. And then it had to go to the finance department to approve it. And then, you had to wait for the product to come and then you received it. Somebody told you and you had to then send, okay, it's okay to pay the bill now. Make sure the inventories match, all these processes. And it made us just not want to buy products, not want to be able to purchase things. And that's where it cut the administrative costs, because then it got to where we could buy stuff online. So we're usually approved for a certain level. I could buy something up to $1,000 and nobody would ask any questions. Over that, if I tried to buy something, it would automatically send it to my boss or whoever the approver was. They would approve it. And then it would go through, and when received it, it went into the system and said, yep, we've got the right quantity, or no, we don't. And the payment went automatically. So then it was like, okay, this is way easier. Saved a lot of administrative costs, which shifted to, I think something we're going to talk about in a minute, the suppliers being having less of this, let me see what we've got and what price we can get it at, and just building relationships. E-purchasing systems can benefit both parties. It's the supplier and the buyer both. Sourcing decisions. So this is particularly talking about vertical integration, which is how much you're going to do in-house, whatever you're going to keep under your control. Two main ways to look at it. Backward integration, which is essentially from the product, not always, but from the product backwards. So you want to have a lot of control over your raw materials and components and all those things. Forward integration, from the product and the distribution to the customer. You want to control that side of it. So why would you want to do backward integration? Why would you want to control a lot on that side of it? Components, raw materials, all that stuff. That, I would say, control, like going to the customer, or just in general. Yeah, control is part of it. If you can control the materials and components, you've probably got a high quality product. You want to make sure it stays a high quality product. If you want forward integration and you're wanting to get products to them quickly, you're going to want to control the transportation systems and the delivery and the distribution part of it. So it's all about based off what's most important to you. Outsourcing and insourcing, it seems like we go in cycles. It's like everybody says, oh, we've got to bring everything in-house. It's more efficient. We need to control it. 10 years later, everybody will be going, you need to outsource everything. It's silly to bring all that stuff inside. So I'm not sure that there's an answer. It's just individual fit for whoever. But we just say it's like up and down, like this cycle that we would go through. People changing ideas and what they need to do. When you're looking at your process, though, and maybe you're a startup, we'll look at this from the perspective of a startup. You got to look at your make versus buy. So a lot of companies will need to try to figure out, starting off, do they want to outsource a lot of their work or go ahead and insource? So here's an example. Mary and Sue decide to open a bagel shop. Their first decision is whether they should make bagels or buy them. If they buy them from a bakery, they'll have fixed costs of $1,000 annually. They can buy the bagels for 40 cents. They can make them in-house for 15 cents, but they have to spend $15,000 in fixed costs annually. So the formula here, fixed cost buy plus variable cost times quantity buy, and then fixed cost make plus variable cost make times quantity. So buying them, $1,000 in fixed costs. Variable cost is 40 cents. Fixed cost 15,000, variable cost is 15 cents. So what you're coming down to is a quantity that's your indifference point, where it doesn't matter. You're going to make the same amount of money whether you make or you buy, and that's at 56,000. So they think they're going to sell 60,000 bagels. So what do they want to do? Make them or buy them? See, from a bottom line perspective on this, since you're selling 60,000, you're going to make more money making them than buying them. So, but let's think about it from this perspective. Add a little wrinkle to it. So you're a brand new company and you're opening up a brand new bagel shop, and you think you're going to sell 60,000, but that 15,000 in fixed costs you're going to have to put out front versus 1,000 in buy. If it's 60,000 bagels, do you still want to make them? or what might factor into that? How certain are you about the 60,000? Are you sure? Is that a conservative estimate, or is that like best case scenario? So you got to factor these things in. If you're like, "Why? We're not real sure," you might, even though your indifference point might be there, you might still say, "Okay, year one, we're going to buy, and then we'll see how it goes." Maybe you've already got a contract with somebody, and it's like, "Okay, we're gonna make them." So there's all kinds of different things that can go into there. It's not just a complete, here's our indifference point. It's 56,001, so we're going to make. It's pretty much never that simple. So you get your point and you work from there. What types of things are going on in the environment. Supplier relationships. It used to be that we looked at price, and that was pretty much it. I remember when I went to Texas with Walmart, I was in charge of buying all office supplies. And the only thing the general manager ever asked me about the supplies was, how much was it? Was it the cheapest? Is there anybody that can provide it cheaper? That was kind of it. Nothing else. Now it's kind of shifted more to, what type of relationship can we have with the supplier? Can we develop a relationship where we can depend on them? Are they kind of have the same mindset in business as we do? So all of those things would factor in to try to find the best supplier. Now that tends to be where it's going. This just lists benefits of one supplier. There's a lot of benefits to one supplier. But what do you think could be one of the biggest problems if you only had one supplier? If you only had one supplier, what's a big problem with that? Okay. Yeah, they could run out. Something could happen. And usually, if you have one supplier, they might be the one supplier for lots of other people. So somebody else might order all their stock. Think about the chip crisis, processing chips after COVID with the automobiles. So it's good to have one supplier and a great relationship, but you need to have some backup, and that's what we tried to do. They would corporate would usually mandate we buy certain things from certain people, like our boxes we bought from International Paper, but there was a guy locally that had boxes and other things, and I tried to have a good relationship with him because when I needed something, I wanted to be able to call on him. So just all these different benefits. Hopefully you're reducing costs with your partnering overall. Might not be on the front end just that price, but in the long run you'd be saving it. So suppliers benefit too. They have some security there with a good relationship. Building intimacy, which is basically in this situation trust. You want to be able to trust your supplier, trust what they're telling you. Different win-win characteristics. So that's what you want. You want to figure out how both parties are going to benefit. Again, we go back to looking at the idea of making money. We want both people to benefit there. Yeah, great.
One of the major issues with some suppliers is they have a lot of bargaining power with the negotiations.
Yeah, they can have a lot of bargaining power. If you've got all your eggs in one basket, so to speak, which eggs are expensive now. I don't know if you've been hearing about that, but I'm ready to get some chickens. If they've got it, they've got you. They can raise prices. You only have one place to get it. You can't really do anything. So they have a lot of bargaining power. So that's why you like to have that second person. In that situation, you might be able to go, well, you know what? We're not going to order from you this time then, and order from the other one. Usually suppliers will kind of back up. Let's see, trying to get through all this. In your warehouses, your general warehouse is more for storage, but your distribution is used more short term and to get the product shipped and out. Product mixing, consolidation, more and more about, trying to get all these different products together and get them to the customer rather than trying to have these large batches of orders. It's been much more efficient to do it that way. Cross docking has become big. Cross docking essentially means it comes in one door and it's out the other one. It doesn't go into storage. It just goes directly into the process. If it's manufacturing, it doesn't go into some storage area. It goes straight to the manufacturing floor. In distribution, it comes straight in the door and straight out to the customer. And most distribution centers are going to that if they can. RFID. So I want to make sure I get this video in about RFID because I think it's going to be the future. I've seen it just progress in what it can do, and it gets so much cheaper. And I think we're going to see more and more of that because it's like it's in so many things now, our debit cards, credit cards, the way we get into doors, and different products too. So let's jump into this video real quick.
By now, most of us are used to the idea of doing stuff without actually having to touch anything, and while this sadly doesn't work in all public bathrooms, it's become commonplace to do all sorts of stuff like unlocking hotel rooms, traveling on subways, entering our cars, and buying overpriced merch at theme parks just by tapping something or being near it. But this is not Harry Potter style magic, folks. It is all thanks to a technology called RFID. Little chips that somehow make everything smart, at least according to someone's marketing department somewhere. But how does RFID even work? I mean, it's just a tiny chip thing embedded inside a card, right? Where's the battery? Well, most RFID chips called tags, not that kind of tags, actually don't need a battery. Mind blown, right? Because they draw power from whatever happens to be reading them. Run-of-the-mill RFID tags in credit cards and wristbands are classified as passive and only consist of a tiny antenna, an embedded CPU to process radio waves, and a small amount of data storage. They're small and low power enough to just grab energy from a powered chip reader, making them convenient enough to use just about anywhere. Wait a second, Linus. Anywhere? Are we going to start seeing terabyte-sized RFID tags that can replace my trusty mechanical hard drive? Well, no. To keep power consumption low enough that they can be powered by radio waves, and to keep costs down so we can put them everywhere, RFID tags hold only a few kilobytes of data, which is fine because in today's connected world, you don't need more than a few kilobytes of storage for the RFID chip to be an incredibly useful tool. No, but really though, along with the useful things that can be done with a few kilobytes, paperless ticketing for events and Apple Pay, which use NFC, a two-way short-range form of RFID, come to mind. Thanks to many RFID readers, like your cell phone, for example, having their own network connections, RFID chips are often simply used as pointers to more information or more complex functionality somewhere else. Cool, right? Entertainment venues offer RFID kiosks to auto check in on Facebook or auto tweet that you're too lazy to take your phone out of your pocket. Cars have RFID tags that can help you recover them if someone decides to jack your ride. Casinos have RFID chips in their chips to help people from pulling an Ocean's 11, and you can even have a tag attached to your dog to find him if he decides to run away because you spent all night playing Counter-Strike and forgot to feed the poor soul. And because RFID is such a customizable technology, many uses for it have most likely not even been fully realized yet. I mean, imagine RFID tags replacing barcodes on everything you purchase so you can just walk out of the store with all your new stuff and an RFID scanner will read your tags and credit card to automatically bill you. No checkout lines required. Mind blown again, right? I mean, there's even a number of projects around smart dust, RFID transmitters about a cubic millimeter in size that could do everything from analyze traffic patterns after being mixed into asphalt to keeping tabs on your stuff whenever it's taken out of your home so you know if it's been stolen to flowing through your bloodstream to monitor the state of your health. I mean, whoa, hold on a second there, Linus. Let's just back this up. What if I don't want to eat RFID pixie dust or have every single thing I buy tracked? That sounds like some kind of 1984 nightmare. And yeah, I hear that, guys. We actually have some tough questions to answer as a society about how much privacy we want to trade for automation and convenience, which is the downside of RFID technology and where it's heading right now, unless, of course, you're into being watched.
Okay, so this video is about 2 or 3 years old, and I remember the first time I saw it, I thought that's laughable, having RFID. But as technology goes, I'm like, could it? Could it really happen? I don't know, but there, like you said, there could be some issues there that we'd have to figure out. But I think it's the future. More and more, it's being used more and more. It's more efficient. It's cheaper to use. It's in so many things, and I think that will be where the future goes. This looks at just RFID in practice, but I'm going to skip past it. And if you want to watch it, you can pull it up and look at it. Implementation really is about how you're going to look at it, how you're going to measure it, what's really going to matter. We've got these traditional measures, which are still important, but as we go through the goal, we don't want to get too focused on certain things and lose sight of really trying to make sure that we're making money. Supply chain will look at warranty costs and products returned and things like that, transaction costs, rather than some of these more traditional, which are important. We just got to use them all. And then every part of the business is going to be involved in supply chain in some way, some more than others, but it stretches so far across the organization, from sourcing products, getting products, when are they going to be there, demand planning, when can it ship, how's it going to get there, all these different things. So basically every part of the organization is involved. Finance, HR needs to make sure you have the right kind of talent. All those things super important. Okay, I think that's it. Thanks for hanging in with me as I tried to get through this. A little less discussion and interaction, but we made it. Jeff Smith on Tuesday. There you can see the very simple assignment about that you'll have for the Jeff Smith